Today, we're going to have a discussion with Rich O'Donnell. He's a previous tax assessor for, I believe you were the tax assessor, Rich and Dry, right?
No, town of Eastchester for most of my career.
Town of Eastchester. And I've personally had a lot of clients, homeowners, who used Rich's service to grieve their taxes. This is when I realized that a lot of people's taxes are over-assessed. And by just reaching out to Rich's company and his team, you can very quickly and easily save a couple $1,000s potentially in your yearly taxes. So I thought maybe we should have a discussion about that and educate other homeowners on what they need to know, what they need to do to potentially reduce and grieve their taxes.
Say that most people are technically are not eligible for a tax reduction, but what we do is we can ascertain whether a property owner is eligible for an assessment reduction. It's not a good idea to challenge your assessment if in fact you're under assessed, and that certainly does exist. Right. So we are careful to make sure that we look into each and every inquiry to make sure that the potential client is a valid candidate for a reduction.
And it doesn't hurt them, right?
Oh, no, not at all. As a matter of fact, if we on the phone cannot ascertain within a few minutes whether there is a reduction possible, we have a mechanism on our website, retiredassessor.com, and that is called the property profile. Any homeowner in Westchester or the other counties that we serve, we don't work in New York City or Nassau County, but any other areas in New York, we can look into whether they are a reduction. The property owner would fill out property profile on our website. We will then send it to a third-party professional appraiser. Usually within 2 days, we're going to have a preliminary opinion of value that will say whether it's a valid case, it's not a valid case, and then move forward accordingly.
What is the typical process for a homeowner that doesn't know anything about the tax grievance that they should know and do?
Fair enough. So if you're in our service area, again, Westchester, Rockland, Putnam, Dutchess, Orange, and Ulster counties is primarily
right.
where we. But if you're in those areas and you just want to have an education, a thought about whether you should pursue a reduction or not, this is something that we can do. You will receive a lot of mailers suggesting you absolutely have a reduction, but those are teasers. We don't go that route. We are very thorough, as I said earlier, and accordingly, we can discuss the situation with you. We can immediately tell you at what value the town thinks you are worth for tax purposes, and then we have a quick conversation. Some homeowners have a pretty good idea off the top of their head. Others don't have any idea whatsoever, and we can look into it and make sure they're a candidate for reduction. In most of Westchester, the grievance window is in June. However, Yonkers has a November. We're in a Yonkers grievance window as we speak, November 1st to the 15th. White Plains is January 1st to the 21st. All other Westchester towns and cities, you challenge the assessment between June 1 and the third Tuesday of June, and that's what we would handle on their behalf. Simply call us at 914-779-4444 or email us at info@retiredassessor.com. And just all you have to do is give us your address. We'll begin the conversation. We'll look up your assessment. And on a preliminary basis, we may be able to figure out whether it makes sense to pursue it.
Got it. What are the fees and costs homeowners should know that might be associated with that if they retain your company to reduce their taxes?
Well, the first thing I want to tell you, Arya, is the fact that we charge nothing for our information, to consult with us, to talk about anything and related to assessment and taxes. And the only time we charge is after we have successfully challenged the assessment. We charge a one-time fee of 50% of the first year's savings. That is industry standard, and the savings will continue for each and every year. For example, if we save you $2,000 each and every year, there's a one-time fee of $1,000. If there's an appraisal necessary, the appraisal fee is covered by the client. But in the event we're unsuccessful, which is rare, 1% or less, we will then refund the cost of the appraiser. So there's no fee, there's no risk whatsoever in using our services.
You're basically giving away a service for free. I have seen that. Like any homeowner can just reach out to you, send you an email, and within the day, the company literally replies, right? We believe you are overassessed or not overassessed.
Yeah, we try very, very hard to be very responsive and very good to our clients and potential clients. We speak to thousands of realtors, homeowners, attorneys, anybody who wants to pick our brain related to assessment to taxes. It is not all about challenging assessment. There's a lot of other things that people are curious about, and we are happy to answer any and all of those questions, whether they be property specific or generic questions.
What documentation, Rich, or information, or both, do homeowners need when they contact you besides a home address?
For that, if they have a rough idea as to the value of their home, if they've had a refi appraisal in recent years, if they've had you do a market analysis, or you have given them an opinion of value, that is an important and good way to start. But again, if they have no information whatsoever, they simply give us our address, and then we'll take the ball and go from there. We are always happy to look into any property to see if they're a candidate for reduction at any time.
If a homeowner ends up retaining your services, do they need to come up with some sort of documentation, or you just take it from there? Once you have the address, you contact the local county tax assessor's office and you handle it from there?
Well, in a sense, what we need is evidence. The burden of proof is the property owners or their representative. The assessment is perceived to be correct. Even if it's outrageous, it's perceived to be correct unless you, the homeowner, or the representatives proved the market value of the property is in disagreement with the assessment. So we would have our clients contact the appraiser who did the initial preliminary review to see if there was a case. They would set up a date for the inspection, and that would be the evidence that we would use. There's no obligation to use any particular form of evidence, but the reason we have such a high success rate is the best evidence you could possibly have is a third-party professional appraisal.
Right. Is there any risks for homeowners if they contact you and try to see if it's overassessed?
None whatsoever. There are a lot of myths and misunderstandings in this business, but again, I was on the local government side of this for 28 years. A lot of people have misconceptions. So chat with us. We'll let you know what the story is. We'll let you know how to proceed if you have a case, but there is zero risk in talking with us about your property, and there's zero risk in the process, because the only outcome of filing a grievance in a potential small claims case is either a denial or a reduction. The Board of Assessment Review has no authority to do anything but deny or reduce.
Right. It's not like they can just come and say, hey, we're going to raise you now, right?
Not happen. It's not legal. It's never happened. It never will happen.
Right. How long does it typically take till a homeowner knows if their taxes, if their reduction has been approved or denied?
Just for example, we will use Westchester Towns. The case is filed between June 1st to 3rd Tuesday of June. The Board of Assessment Review, which is the first stage of the process, they will respond in writing by September 15th or thereabouts. And then if we're unhappy with the outcome, which happens all the time in all jurisdictions, we move on to the court proceeding known as SCAR, Small Claims Assessment Review. That'll add a few months. But in any event, for most of Westchester, the process begins on June 1, and the savings does not begin until April of the following year, but there are a few outliers, such as Yonkers, White Plains, and some villages.
But so let's say you start the process in June, by when would a potential homeowner know if it's approved or not? Would they know that in September, or they won't know until April the next year?
Mid-September, we call our clients with the decision at the first stage, the grievance. We let them know whether they've been reduced sufficiently and everything's in good shape, we've been successful, or we need to move on with the court proceeding known as Small Claims Assessment Review. That'll add a few months, 3, 4, 5 months even, which hardly matters as the savings begins the following April.
Rich, I have heard from some homeowners, right, when I talk with them about their homes, their values, they're telling me, oh, we have grieved our taxes year after year after year. Is that something you do for some people? You think that's really a waste of time?
Absolutely not. We don't do that. We have had probably about 15,000 cases, and maybe 100, 150 have actually needed to go back. If you're adequately represented in year 1, there's no reason to go back. Your assessment will remain fair indefinitely.
Got it. In general, just so people have an idea, since you were a tax assessor, how is the taxes so different from one town to another in Westchester. If you can speak to that for a minute so people get an idea, like that town is that percent, that town is that percent.
Well, it's all about the budget. The assessment process is separate from the budget process. Everybody wants to complain, again, having been on the government side, everybody wants to come in and say, I'm paying too much, I'm paying too much. And then when I tell them that, your assessment is fair, we'll both agree that the assessment's fair. The only reason it's expensive is because of the budgets. The budget process is open to the public, the school budget, the town budget, the county budget, all open to the public, all held in these large auditoriums, and yet very, very few people attend them. So the bottom line is, unless you acknowledge and look at the budget and participate in that process, the only other thing that we can do is to see if it's unfair. Being expensive and unfair, unfortunately, are two different things.
Got it. Another general question, right? When people buy a home, some towns will reassess that purchase price automatically, immediately, and some won't, right?
Correct.
And is there a specific reason?
Absolutely. If when I was a town assessor at Eastchester, the last time they did a townwide revaluation in 1941, the assessment rule was obsolete and it was inequitable before I was born. So that assessment rule is very old, and accordingly, if in fact I were to raise the assessment upon sale and leave all the other underassessed properties unchanged, that's discriminatory. It's not permitted. You're not allowed to reassess upon sale in municipalities that do not maintain their assessment rule at 100% of value. However, about 10 or so Westchester municipalities have gone to 100% value. So there, Arya, it's very important that people know that if they're buying an underassessed home, they better be careful and they better check to see whether or not there's a chance of an increase. And we receive plenty of those phone calls as well. We call them the bad news phone calls, but people want to know so as to give their, especially realtors like yourself, want to give their buyers
the correct taxes.
The best advice, looking forward and being proactive to find out what could happen as opposed to what currently exists. Yes, if you look at the residential assessment ratio button on our website, retiredassessor.com, you will see the municipalities that are 100% of value, and there is the risk of an increase if in fact the property is underassessed. Furthermore, many times assessors who have access to MLS will see that new kitchen that was done 3 or 4 years ago, let's say without a permit. We would call that midnight carpentry when I was an assessor. That's another risk. If in fact improvements have been made that have not been accounted for by the assessor, even upon sale, those improvements can be addressed. That's not reassessing upon sale per se, that's reassessing upon the discovery of improvements that the assessor previously did not know about. And in those situations, they can only increase the assessment to the extent that those improvements contribute to value.
In general, when people renovate a home, what are the main items that people should know will increase your taxes after you close out permits and the town comes in to inspect the home?
Well, it's a cat and mouse situation between property owners and the assessor. Everybody, I shouldn't say everybody, most contractors or homeowners put a low number on that building permit, but the assessor is going to know the true contributory value of that improvement. Accordingly, it's important to know what kind of improvements add the most value. You know very well that a new kitchen is going to add value. Renovated bathrooms, finished basements, things like that are going to contribute to value. We also offer a service of letting people know what we believe the increased value may be even before they make the improvement, so that they have some idea going forward. Now, we can't guarantee any particular amount, but we can also give people a tool saying, for example, if you add $50,000 in value, you'll be adding X amount in taxes each and every year. So people can work their own scenarios as well.
Does circular driveways increase taxes on homes?
As an assessor, I would say no. But believe me, when I retired and I saw the practices of some other assessors, potentially, but not by much. That's not going to be adding. How much more would a buyer pay for a circular driveway as opposed to not having a circular driveway?
Is there anything else you would like to add, Rich, that we didn't cover that people should know when it comes to taxes?
It's a very misunderstood business, and we accidentally stumbled upon this business model. When I retired, I said, let me begin representing clients, but that came
It doesn't look to me like you're retired, Rich. You're constantly responding to emails.
But when I retired from my first career, I'll say, but there's so many myths and misunderstandings that I simply encourage people to have a conversation with us. It costs nothing, and we're happy to help. Sometimes it leads to business for us, but many times it does not. You yourself probably understand that you have to work on a lot of leads and do a lot of research in order to get one client. And this is our way of providing a service that over time results in achieving cases for us.
Got it. Thank you, Rich. I really appreciate your time, and we'll be in touch.
Very good. Thank you, Arya. I hope you all the best the holiday season coming up.
Thank you, Rich. We'll talk soon.
Okie doke. Bye-bye.